All right, good evening, everyone. It is 6:17. It's December 5th. This is a special meeting of the Brattleboro Select Board. We're reconvening after entering into executive session at 5:45. Patrick, I asked once, but I'll ask again, was this special meeting of the board properly warned?
Yes, it was.
Excellent. Okay, so we're here today.
You wanted to mention that Patrick joined us.
Yes, and for the record, I want to mention that the interim town manager, Patrick Moreland, was invited into the executive session, and I failed to mention that when making the motion beforehand. Board, is there any discussion about that modification of the motion? No. Okay, excellent. All right, so we are here tonight to do interviews for the Charter Review Commission. I'm just going to take a moment to actually read from the charter itself for this portion of why we're actually here. So I'm under section 5, appointments, subsection H, which is at least as often as every 15 years, the select board shall appoint from among the voters a charter revision commission to review the language of the charter and the rights, powers, duties, and responsibilities specified therein. The commission may propose amendments and may redraft the charter in whole or in part. Any amendments or changes shall be voted upon in accordance with Article 8 of this charter or as otherwise required by law. So I urge our applicants to just keep that language in mind, and that this commission is charged with a responsibility that can be pretty broad or pretty finite and specific to the four corners of the charter. And so when we ask you questions tonight about that, keeping that in mind for your answers would be much appreciated. With that in mind, unless I've missed anything, I'll ask my fellow select board members to introduce themselves for anybody who hasn't met us before, although I think most of you have. And I'll start over on my far left. Liz?
That would be me. My name is Liz McLaughlin. I'm a select board member. I'm rounding out my 4th year on the select board.
I'm Tim Wessel, and I'm in my 6th year on the select board, and I make noise about this being my final year on the select board.
Daniel Quip, I'm the vice chair of the board currently.
I'm Jess Gelter. I am the clerk and in my 2nd year on the board.
And I'm Ian Goodnow, and I'm the chair of the Brattleboro Select Board. Perfect. So we're going to do this one at a time with whoever signed in first, and we'll go down the list. 10 minutes. You'll have like a 1-minute intro. Tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe something that you didn't write in your letter of interest. And then we're going to have 2 questions for you. And then we'll give you an opportunity to ask us a question if you want. So I'm going to try it. We have a lot of people interviewed tonight, so we're going to try to keep this short and to the point. And so with that, I'll invite Kate O'Connor up to the table. Welcome, Kate.
No, I didn't intentionally mean to be first. It just happened. And we've been discussing that now. They all get to hear what the questions are.
Yeah, it's a cost benefit, I think. You know, they have to sit there a long time, but they get to.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, Kate, you want to just state your name for the record, and then also if you want to just give like a brief 1-minute intro, much appreciated.
Sure. My name is Kate O'Connor. I am from Brattleboro, and I was born and raised here. I'm currently working at the Commons newspaper, and I served on the Brattleboro Select Board. I am a town meeting member, and I'm on the Board of Civil Authority. And that's like, I'll make it quick.
Yeah.
It's in a nutshell.
Great. Thank you very much. I think, Liz, you got our first question?
I do. Hi, Kate. How are you? What do you hope to accomplish by participating on this town charter committee?
Well, first of all, I think the town charter is a reflection of what we want our town government to be. And the commission looking and reviewing the charter happens only every 15 years. So this is a unique opportunity for a lot of us. I have, as I said, been on the Brattleboro Select Board. I am currently a town meeting member and on the Board of Civil Authority. So I have a working knowledge of what the charter does and really an appreciation of what it means to the town in the sense of working. I'm coming into this not having an agenda on a certain issue. I want to wait till the review and then see what comes of it. But why I'd like to be on this is because I think the process is very, very important. And how the commission works and the work that it does is really, it's going to be successful based on how it works. And I think that it has to be a very deliberate process, one that is transparent and one that is inclusive. And to me, the goal of the process would be to, when we, whatever the commission ends up with at the end, any proposals that we bring to town meeting, that both town meeting and the public can be confident that it was really thorough, everything was thoroughly vetted. So pretty much for me, the contents, the review itself is important, what we come up with, but the process of the review is integral to making this successful. And that's my answer to your question.
Thank you very much, Kate.
Okay. This was edited moments ago, so let me see if I can get it together. All right, Kate, it's likely that you're going to have disagreements with your fellow commissioners, maybe differences of opinion on how to move the work forward. How will you handle those moments? And if possible, give examples from your previous work.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I've been on many boards and committees and we don't always agree. And as you know, sometimes I sit there and I don't always agree with you folks. But I think it's really is important to listen and be respectful of one another. One of the committees that I served on for 4 years and was the chair of was the, and I'll give an example, not select board, because you've all seen me in that venue. I was the chair of the Vermont Nuclear Decommissioning Citizens Advisory Panel, which was a 19-member panel formed by the Vermont legislature in 2014 when Vermont Yankee announced that it was closing. And I was appointed by Governor Shumlin, and it was made up of state agency heads, legislators in Vermont and New Hampshire and Massachusetts, representatives from different interest groups. And as you might imagine, Vermont Yankee was, or still is, a subject that's very polarizing. You either liked it, you hated it, or you didn't have an opinion. And the role of the committee that I was on was to make sure that the decommissioning was a transparent process. And the meetings were very lively. We had a lot of people who disagreed, and it was really putting a process in place. This was the first kind of commission in the country, so we had nothing to go on. And, as chair, I'm very proud to say that I put together a process that we had people who didn't agree in the room, we all learned to be respectful of one another. And, that's something I'm very proud of. And it went so well that Vermont's panel became a national model for how you can have a group of community members work. And we were working with, what and a lot of people thought was the enemy, Entergy was involved in this too. So, and I learned from that you do have to be respectful of other people's opinions, and hear people out and just keep your mind open and be thoughtful and sort of set an example. I try to set an example on that panel by not engaging in negative behavior, so to speak. So that's kind of the thing that I would love to, where I think I've been successful in hopefully listening.
I have one follow-up, Kate, from the RTM steering committee, which is like the one committee that I've sort of was on the board with, and sort of saw people had a lot of opinions about how it was run. And I'm curious if there's any particular lesson that you take from that committee that you could bring to charter review?
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of lessons, but I think the biggest lesson, what we didn't do on that steering committee was sit down and agree on one, what the committee was all about, and two, what would be the process, in coming up with the decisions that we were making. So we were sort of rudderless,
Yeah.
and everybody came in with their own opinion. And not that anybody was wrong with what their opinion of what it should be, but we never sat down in the beginning and had a consensus. And we also, not only did we not have a consensus of what the committee was or what the process should be, we really never sat down and understood how town government ran, and a lot of the decisions that the committee was wanting to make were things about how we change town government without an understanding of how town government runs. And I think that's important for the Charter Review Commission, is for the members of it to all agree on what the meaning of it is, what the process is, and we all have a mutual understanding of how town government works currently. I think that would be one of the first things to do, is to sit down and have people come in and talk to us, whether it's the town manager, town attorney, or whoever, come and say, this is what the charter's about. This is where the charter came from. Here's why some of the things are in it, so that we're all have a mutual understanding. Because I think that's where the steering committee just went off the rails, because there wasn't any of that.
Yeah.
There were good people, really, really good people on it, but we all came from a different perspective.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions for the select board?
No, I wish you folks well, because there's 21 good people to choose from.
Yes. All right. Well, that's it. Thank you so much, Kate.
you.
Really appreciate we kept it like right to 10 minutes. So well done. All right. Gonna move on to Deb Burns. Cross Kate off the list.
Nobody's ever used my name like that before. That's
Oh, yeah.
pretty fun.
All right, Deb, you've got it. You got the process down. 1 minute intro. You've met us all. Tell us a little about yourself.
Okay. I must say, it's pretty hard to follow Kate. If anything, I'd say, oh yeah, just everything that Kate said, but that doesn't work. So my name's Deb Burns. I've lived here in Brattleboro for 6 years. Shortly after coming here, I retired. And since then, I've tried to pick up a variety of opportunities to be involved in the community. And what I decided to do was I loved my job and the work that I did for many decades. I wanted to learn and do new and different things. So I got involved in legal work through youth services and being a diversion member there, and eventually was asked by them to help be a volunteer member on their strategic planning group. That was fun. And I also wanted to get into medical things, which also was not in my past, but I am deathly afraid of blood, so forget that. And I joined the Medical Reserve Corps and have been doing vaccination clinics and other kinds of things. And they actually just hired me as a assistant coordinator to help them get more things done for the community. And we just finished up something on safety, winter safety for Brattleboro. So I'm also involved in a lot of other kinds of things, from the free clinic to other elements of legal work and the like, and have been studying online the law in some fashion, focusing mostly on the Constitution, which brings me to the Charter and my interest in being not only taking a lot of the civil work that I've been doing and applying it, but also getting more into it. And I want to say I'm very happy to have just been voted in a justice of the peace. The purpose for that, my purpose for that, was I wanted to be a part of the Board of Civil Authority and again, contribute in that manner. So
Congratulations.
thank you.
Liz?
Thanks, Deb. Here's my question. What do you hope to accomplish by participating in the Town Charter Review Commission?
My interest is in bringing together or being a part of a group of people who were brought together to achieve a review, to manage a review of the charter, but also in that to look at how we can make it appropriate. Perhaps it is, but look at it to make it appropriate for where we'll be in 10 to 15 years. And while I understand it's a 15-year commission or a 15-year view of the commission by the commission, I hope to achieve looking at a variety of kinds of things, including whether or not 15 years is appropriate. Should it be every 10 years? Should it be something else? I'm not coming into this with any preconceived notions, which I think is the way I should look at it. But I am coming to it with the idea to see how can we make a charter that is good farther out to a time period where we won't even know what kind of technology we should be considering, where we won't know necessarily what the best numbers of folks on a committee or in some other team should be. So I'm just open to looking at a variety of kinds of things. As from an achievement perspective, I'd love to see us be able to identify not only the governance that is needed, and there's great governance within the charter now. How can we improve that? But also what kind of objectives should we be reaching towards and make sure that we have? What sort of goals should we have? And is that something that we can capture and then build a governing structure off of that? So I don't have anything in my mind on what it should be, but I hope to achieve I hope to achieve the ability to pull it all together with others. Yeah.
Okay, Deb, let's give this another try. So it's likely you're going to have disagreements or differences of opinion with your fellow commissioners, perhaps on the subject, perhaps on just how to proceed. So how will you handle those moments? And if you can, give some examples from your previous work.
Well, I think in any group of two people or more, you're going to run into places where you might not agree fully, where you might be going down the same path but diverge at some point in it, or any other kinds of things. I think I'll reference back to Kate and her comment about respect. I have always in my past used respect as the key basis for how I work with others and get along with others. In my past, I have been the president of a company. I have held senior management roles. All of that put me into a place where I was the final voice or the final arbiter of something. And that in fact is something that is not what I'm looking for and not what I have done since I've retired. Since I've retired, I've been very focused on holding roles and playing roles in the volunteer work that I've done that has been working as a team with somebody. There may be others who have a higher level of responsibility than I do in some of my volunteer activities or things like that. But it's been really important to me not to be in a hierarchical kind of situation. And so I am experiencing that all the time now. enjoying that quite a bit. So I would work to ensure that that continues. Again, back to respect, that's the basis of it, I believe. But it's also a matter of knowing that you're all working towards the same goal. It may have we all may have different thoughts and different outcomes for what we'd like, but we're working towards the same goal. And that's important to understand and know. And to know that from the get-go, and to continue to build on that as time goes along. And so I think that's the primary goal for what I'm thinking. So any particular questions or follow up on that? Okay.
Yeah, I'll pause for a second. Yeah, Tim?
No, not for me.
Okay. I don't think we have any follow up. So do you have any questions for the select board?
Well, yeah, I'm curious. I believe there's 7 people that you're going to have on the commission.
Correct.
And are you looking for certain kinds of backgrounds or certain kinds of contributions that they can make?
So as much as I wish that the select board operated in a single focused mind, one belief and, focus, we don't. So I have a feeling, much like any appointment, we're going to consider all the applicants and sort of thinking about both their individual contributions, but then also how they'll work in the team of 7, keeping in mind a particular focus on how important this commission is, and that it really will require time and energy and focus. And if any board member wants to lean in on that.
I would just say my highest priority is people that can think thoughtfully. Well, that sounds strange. And work well together, because it's critical that even if there's disagreements or goals, priorities are different, the body itself has to work well together. Otherwise, it won't be successful.
Great.
Yeah,
And I agree.
I think the only thing I would say is, I just heard you mention earlier on that like having kind of an open mind and no agenda is how you think you should be coming into this commission. While I don't disagree with that position, I also don't necessarily think that people coming in with the agenda item that they're interested in pursuing is wrong either. So I think the board probably balance if there are people who are applying who do have something that they're interested in particularly pursuing as something to think about when they're putting somebody on the commission.
Sounds great. So a variety of people coming together to, again, follow through on the main objective, however they come together.
Just like our community.
That's true, yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deb. Thanks. Thank you. Maya Hasegawa.
Yes, I introduce myself.
Please.
Right. I'm Maya Hasegawa, and as I've lived in Brattleboro for 8 years now, and have served on town meeting almost from the first town meeting that happened after I moved here. I moved here in August, and I was elected the following March for the first time. I've served on several boards in the town, and I'm currently chair of the Development Review Board. And I've lived in a variety of places, and I've seen how a variety of governments work or don't work. And so I'm very interested in making sure that Brattleboro continues to operate as well as it currently does.
Thank you.
Let me continue that thought by asking you, what do you hope to accomplish by participating in the Town Charter Revision Committee?
having read the charters several times, I think there are, and I'm one of those people that's going to come in with some ideas. Okay. I think parts of it are kind of outdated. And I think particularly the sections on town meeting need to be thoughtfully addressed. I know that there was that RTM committee that tried to do that, not very successfully. And I'd like to see this commission maybe tackle that and do it in a more thoughtful way. I also, as I said, I'm interested in seeing the town operate smoothly. And I think there are some things that we could probably do a little better.
Could you tell us some of those things?
Only if
Yeah,
you
I
want
think,
to.
what?
Only if you want to.
Well, I think one of them is I've heard a lot of people tell me that they don't understand why I'm on town meeting or why I would want to be. Because, to spend a day and a half or,
2 days.
2 days or 12 hours, they think it's totally crazy. And I've been thinking about some ways that we might streamline things a little bit. Maybe more committees like the Human Services Committee that would do some work on specific items ahead of time and could present reports. Of course, I've been around long enough to know that people don't pay attention to those reports and they don't read them, and that creates controversy. But slowly try to change the mindset of people who are on town meeting.
You ready for question 2?
Yes.
Okay.
You almost had a second
All right.
follow-up, but I'm
All
gonna
right.
hold it.
So Maya, it's likely you'll have disagreements with your fellow commissioners, maybe about some of the ideas that you're considering, but also differences of opinion on how to move the work forward. So I'd be curious to know how you would handle those moments and if you have any examples from how you've done that in other places.
I have a couple of examples, but I'll use the DRB since that's local and that's here. As chair, we sometimes have disagreements about how to interpret something or how to interpret particular pieces of evidence. And what we try to do on the board is to listen to everybody. And we try to come up with some compromise, either in the decision that we render or in the way we vote. I mean, we can't always come up with a decision that everybody is going to agree with. And so people feel free to vote no, but that doesn't happen all that often because we really try to talk about the issue and to look at things from a lot of different ways. And some of our meetings get kind of long because of that. But I think that listening to everybody and trying to reach a decision that everybody can be happy with, that's within the bounds of the regulations, is important.
I feel you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that from my stint on the DRB, I think a lot of that discussion happened in the equivalent of executive session, the deliberative session. Thank you. Do you think that, so this commission would not have that ability? I don't believe it would be able, it would just be an open meeting. Do you think that you can have that kind of debate and discussion in open meeting the way that you do chairing the DRB. Without
Well,
having
we have,
access to the
yeah,
deliberative
we
session.
have a lot of discussion in the open meeting.
Yeah,
And it's only when we reach a total impasse
yeah,
that we go into deliberative session. I think that what I would see happening for this commission would be some kind of adjournment or whatever until people can think about the issue some more and then come back and revisit it. Because what you can't always process what somebody else is saying immediately. I guess that would, I don't know if that makes sense,
Yeah.
but
Makes total sense.
Also, I would imagine that the deliberative sessions are for out of earshot of the applicant,
yes,
so that you discuss without the applicant, and the charter commission wouldn't have that.
yes,
the town is the applicant.
yeah. Yeah, no, I understand that it would be total, it would be more like town meeting where everything is out in the open and everybody has their say. Maybe more than once. But yeah, and that's why I would say that if it really got contentious, we should, as part of the process, I would see building in some kind of cooling off period.
And I appreciate that point and note that this committee has the luxury of not really having any kind of time frame. So if you wanted to, you could take that time and it wouldn't be like you're pushing a deadline or something. So
Yeah, the DRB has to make some kind of decision.
yeah, or like the select board, like sometimes we
Yeah.
have experiences like that too.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
Other follow-up questions? No? Any questions for the select board? Oh, yeah.
No, I've heard that the last commission took 3 years. Is that true?
Yes, that is true, but the commission before that didn't. The time span and the number of meetings that you have, if you have one a month or whatever your schedule is, will be totally determined by the committee. And I think a large part of the length of the committee's work will be determined by whether you take that big picture question look or you keep it more finite and specific. But that'll be for you all to decide.
And my other question, which Kate and I were talking about before the meeting started, is there any I know it's not in the charter, but is there any consideration to having alternate members? If let's say the committee goes for a year or a year and a half, which is not inconceivable, things happen. People have to leave, people get sick, people have family issues. And what happens in that case?
Mhm.
I mean, I know it's not in the charter, but I thought it was something to think about.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I think we should consider that and think about it, especially given how many people we have applying for the 7 seats that we have maybe enough.
Yeah, the alternates can participate in the meetings.
So can any
Yeah,
public,
any public
Yeah.
member, yeah.
yeah, but they wouldn't have a voting role. Or,
Well, unless somebody dropped out
yeah,
for some.
it's a really good point. Any other questions?
No, those are my 2 questions.
Good. All right, Maya, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fhar Miess, come on down.
Right?
Almost.
Do you have a hard-boiled egg in your pocket?
What?
Because you never saw the Price is Right.
Oh, yeah. But
Was that on what they call TV? All right, Fhar, you got the system down?
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
Introduction.
Please.
Yeah, so my name is Fhar Miess. Legal name is Art. Nobody calls me that, including my parents. And yeah, I work downtown at Everyone's Books. That's my jobby job. I also serve on the Conservation Commission as its chair. I've been somewhat involved here and there with 350 Brattleboro, doing climate advocacy work. And yeah, I guess I'm just interested in helping shepherd this process forward, so that the charter is as representative as it can be of the values of the town.
Great.
Well, without being too repetitive, let me ask, what do you hope to accomplish by participating in the Town Charter Commission?
So, like most other people have said, I don't have a particular agenda. I'm certainly no kind of expert on the charter. But I think what I would want to bring to the process is trying to bring in the voices of people who have not felt like the charter has well represented their interests and their needs, or government in general has not been representing their interests and needs, as well as people who have felt like the government has done a good job of representing their needs and desires, and to try to develop, evaluate how the charter has served the community well and how it hasn't, and to evaluate which people in the community have been well served and which haven't been well served by the way that the government operates, and to whatever extent the charter might be relevant to those questions. And also just in general, trying to just the internal functioning of this committee, I would want to, play some role in helping it be as effective and smooth running and amicable as possible.
I'd like to ask a follow-up.
Yes.
It was interesting to hear you talk about like evaluating how well the charter has served people. How would you propose that we go about that? Or what would you consider?
I'm not sure what the sort of purview of the committee might be, and to what extent we might be able to like put out surveys and things like that, conduct interviews, bring people in from the community, specific people that we might want to bring in to ask stakeholders, how the charter has served them well, or any issues they might have had with it. So yeah, it's sort of, I think it would be, it's often insufficient in addressing these kind of inclusion and equity questions to just expect people to come to us to tell us, how things have gone and give us feedback, especially if you want, if you want positive feedback. It's not, people aren't often going to tell you if things are going well. So it would be good to get that, actually go out in the community affirmatively and ask how things are going. That would be definitely a conversation with a group of 7 people to talk about how that would be worked out. But
Ready?
Other folks? No, not at the moment.
Okay, so you can do it. Fhar, it's likely you'll have disagreements with your fellow commissioners, possibly even differences of opinion on how to move the work forward. How would you handle those moments? And if possible, give examples from your previous work.
yeah, so while I have some facility with Robert's rules and parliamentary procedure, most of my experience in community groups is in consensus-based decision-making. So actually developing consensus is much more a part of what I'm used to in these sorts of settings than I am the often more sort of antagonistic approach that happens with majoritarian decision-making systems. So that's something I'm used to. In terms of like how that might actually work, broadly speaking, I guess I would want to try to encourage people, my other community members, to be able to at least articulate other people's positions so that there's at least an understanding. We all are talking about the same thing. And we're not just like talking past one another. We're at least, we know what the debate is. And there's various different facilitation methods that can be used to sort of tease out consensus. Some of those things will not work under open meeting law. Can't do pair shares, can't do breakout groups, things like that. But you can do straw polls. You can do like fist of five sort of decision, like informal gauging of where people are at on different issues. Those sorts of things. I have a fair amount of experience with consensus decision-making facilitation. And I would love to bring some of those things to this process.
Do you want to speak to the kind of like when we get stuck with how to move the work forward, how you would approach that?
Yeah, I mean, a cooling off period, like Maya mentioned, might be good, but I think more often, I don't know. I think there are certain situations. More often, I find that it is a question of communication more than like just people hardening in our positions and being unable to move. Like, I think if there's more room in the process for people to be able to articulate what they want and to be able to articulate what the other positions are truthfully and honestly, and for them to communicate, have some mutual respect based on common understanding, it will generally loosen those log jams. Where it's not possible to, where people really are just getting hardened into their positions, there's some of those facilitation tools that you can use to kind of like get a sense of where the rest of the group is at. So it's not just two people butting heads. Other people are engaged in the process, and it's not just all about two people having to hash their issues out together. I don't know what is possible within the process. I think it's probably not possible for, in other situations, other committees that I've been on, like the solar siting committee. I met with one other member of the committee just one-on-one and hashed stuff out, and that was very constructive. But I don't know if that's possible in this context. But that sort of thing can be possible, just to like not try to bring everybody else. Both of those things work, whether it's like two people hashing their stuff out, if it's just two people, or making sure that the larger group is totally involved and is actively participating and shepherding us towards a solution, rather than just I feel like in other committees, like the RTM steering committee, it seemed like there were a few strong voices and a lot of silence from everybody else. And I think the more people, my sort of contribution to the process would be to encourage people who are being silent to, talk about what their position is, and even more what their position is, what they see the way forward is. Because it's not going to come from two people that are butting heads. It's going to come from the rest of everybody else who has less skin in the game.
Yeah. Fhar, any questions for us?
I don't think so. Maya had some great questions.
Yeah, agreed. Well, thank you very much for your application, and we'll move on to the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks. See if I know how to pronounce this one. Peter Elwell.
We finally get you before.
Good evening, and thanks for everyone's patience who's still here and waiting. We appreciate you all being here. All right, Peter, you know the process? Great. Take it away.
Thank you. I do and I don't. So I do in micro for what I've observed of the first 5. So that's helpful, or the first 4. It's helpful to go fifth. I will say it's different to sit over here. And so that speaks to, I think, why I'm interested and think I can be helpful. And also, I want to be careful not to take for granted that, you know, you were my last 5 supervisors during my career as a town manager. We know each other really well. We know the work of the town really well. So in introducing myself, I guess what I would just want to underscore is not so much my career in municipal government, which I talked to in the written work and you know about already, and my academic training in that, but more actually echoing much of what I've heard from each of the 4 others, bits and pieces of the 4 others about the importance of the process, the importance of you choosing 7 of us who represent a good cross-section of the community, and who you think have the best opportunity to come together and work, you know, over a pretty extended period of time constructively together to look at a whole lot of questions, some of which will be pretty arcane and some of which will be pretty like fundamentally important to how the town will function going forward. I think all of that is going to matter. I think that, you know, every section of this document matters, even some of them that we don't touch very often, maybe especially sometimes the ones that we don't touch as often because we're not as familiar with them. And so I think that's why I want to be involved in this, is to work together with 6 other people in the community on something that's so fundamentally important to the way in which governance will happen in Brattleboro for the next 10 or 15 years, and the way in which the community will experience and participate in that governance.
Great. Liz?
Well, here's a repetitive question for you. What you hope to accomplish by being on the town charter commission?
So in addition to that sort of broad description of it, very specifically, and it won't surprise you, I think that it's important for us to look at the other charters of municipalities around the state and see what the state government has allowed them to do. I think we have a lot to learn, and it's a big menu to choose from. It'll take some time to do that. I think that's going to be an important part of this process in the empowerment part of it, right? So we've talked a lot, you and the other applicants have talked a lot so far about, you know, governance within Brattleboro, and that's fundamentally what this is about. And it's also the document that empowers Brattleboro municipal government to do things that aren't necessarily allowed for other governments just based on state statutes. We've tried a number of different ways to gain some additional independent decision-making authority for Brattleboro as a town government, with some mixed success with partners around the state. This is the opportunity for us to put forward a document that says these are the things that are especially important to us. I think there will be some that will come up as good ideas just through the process. And I think that there's a lot of things already that folks have had good ideas about elsewhere that we can learn from and borrow from to put into this document. So that's a piece that I'd really like to spend some time on personally. And I look forward to the group giving consideration to.
Excellent. Okay, no follow-ups? No. All right, Peter, it's likely you will have some disagreements about ideas and differences of opinion on how to move your work forward. Tell us how you will handle those moments, and if possible, please use examples from your previous work. I can think of at least one.
Pardon?
I can think of at least one example.
Thank you.
And that's okay.
Yeah, so in terms of being specific to the answering the question, again, not in the context of us knowing each other so well. I've heard tonight respect, listening, giving it time, right? That's going to be an important part of this process. You've spoken to this already, that isn't always there for other functions of government or other organizations, but this group explicitly will take the time it needs to take to do this work and bring it back. So I think that's really important. And I think Maya's point that, you know, sometimes you might just have to say, we're not going to need to finish this tonight. Let's all think about it and come back and work on it some more. I think that's important, and something that'll be kind of a little different for this, but in any group of people, I think it was Deb who said groups of 2 or more How true that is. It can even be true with, with just two. So, so yeah, we're going to have disagreements about things, little ones and probably some bigger ones, and really listening to one another, treating one another with respect, building the relationships so that there's a foundation to fall back on when you're, working through one of those tougher moments and maybe aggravating each other a little bit. All those things matter. That's my sort of more responsible answer to your question, to actually speak to it substantively. But in this particular one, I would actually also ask you to consider what you've seen. Because I think that what I tried real hard to bring elsewhere and here into this room, and the work that you do was, and it was quite different from my day-to-day role as town manager, where these same relationship building and maintaining and teamwork skills also matter a lot. But as I think it was Deb who said, there's also a hierarchy there, and she was in a position, to be the final decider of things at times. I was too. In this room, I never was. And for 36 years, I learned and honed skills of how to work with a group of people who together we're going to make the decision to try to help them make a better decision. And honestly, you're a better judge than I am of how that went most recently.
So I've got a follow-up question for you, Peter. Okay, so this is potentially your first town committee that you would be on.
Yes.
Post town manager.
Yes.
And I would like you to speak to, for a moment, I hear what you say, that you've been in this room and you were never the decision maker. And so you have all that skill, and I agree with it. And I've seen you do that. But when you're in that room with the 6 other people, you're going to be holding so much power and experience and respect from those other committee members. Maybe, I mean, I don't know,
Right.
maybe they don't like you, but I don't know. but you know what I mean, though? It's like,
Yeah.
so I'd like, I hear that you've done it really well here, but like when you're in that room, it's going to be a little different. So if you could speak a moment to how you'll.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and this is all like, this is like a family gathering. It feels like to me, right? Because then, you point in different ways and say, well, this one knows, or that one, remember last week. So I would say to Patrick unfairly at this point, when he's sitting quietly, just observing the meeting. I think actually the skill set that being town manager with the team of town employees requires speaks more to that particular concern, right? So here it would be potentially the implication of respect or deference.
Yeah.
There, I was in a position where I had the authority to just tell folks what to do, right? But that's not how teams succeed together. And so I tried as little as possible to simply make a decision and tell people the answer to, do this, or we're going to do that. But instead to actually use facilitation mostly, even in that role, to work through things together. Because frankly, just like in this group, people are going to come in, everybody loving Brattleboro, but having different ideas of what's best for Brattleboro, or bringing different experience to the table of, how to decide what's best for Brattleboro. And same thing is true in the town's management team, and deeper into the service delivery in the organization is, folks have these different perspectives that they bring, different experiences that they bring, and a passion for wanting all of us together to be doing it as well as we can. And so I'm not so sure, depending on who you appoint, I'm not so sure that everybody would necessarily act that way. If they did, I would personally suppress that as best I could. And I would draw on the skills that I used with the town staff when I was town manager.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate the answer. And it's actually, that's a perspective of your time as town manager that select board didn't see as much.
That's true.
So
Yep.
yeah,
Thanks for asking.
Here. Other follow-up questions?
I have like 5, and I don't want to ask any of them.
Fair enough.
because it doesn't seem fair to other candidates.
Fair enough. Jess, did you? Good.
I'm good.
Any questions for the select board? Okay, Peter, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we've got Hannah. Do we need to take a break? No, we're good. Hannah Clarisse. So, select board.
Yeah.
I have an opportunity that I am very delighted to get to exercise, which is to utilize a not often used select board rules of conduct of meetings and hearings, April 2022, section C3, which is disclosures. It reads, a board member who has reason to believe that he or she has or may have a conflict of interest, but believes that he or she is able to act fairly, objectively, and in the public interest, and despite that conflict of interest, shall, prior to participating in any official action on the matter, disclose to the public body at a public hearing the matter under consideration, the nature of potential conflict of interest, and why he or she believes that he or she is able to act in the matter fairly, objectively, and in the public interest. So I read and interpret official action to include interviews. So Hannah Clarisse is an attorney at my office. She's an associate, not a partner or my boss or anything like that. She and I work down in the basement of my firm, right next to each other. So I know her very well, but I don't have any kind of financial or like advancement in my career sort of conflict that would associate with interviewing or appointing Hannah to this commission. If anything, it's just I know her and I know her well from that, which gives me an opportunity to ask her questions and also know what kind of applicant she is, much like we do with any other member of the community who we know well, like Peter Elwell, who we just interviewed. You know, theoretically, we all should have done a disclosure for Peter, but
Let me see.
yeah. And I will say, and I'm sorry, Hannah, I'll give you one more moment. I will say that there's one other section to this that is the recusal component, which we will get to do that dance when we do the appointments, and I will bring this up again when we have that the actual appointment time. But I wanted to do the disclosure now before we do the interview because I felt that this was an official action. Any questions?
None.
No, I just get a glare from Jess. Okay.
Thank you for your transparency.
Excellent. Okay, with that, Hannah, do you know the process?
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome.
So as Ian said, my name is Hannah Clarisse. I'm an attorney here in Brattleboro. I've lived here for about 2.5 years now. And I think that's all I have for an introduction. And I can preemptively answer your question, or if you need to read it into the record, I'm happy to wait.
Just go right ahead.
So I'm hoping to bring a fresh perspective to this committee. Unlike, I think, every other candidate we've heard from tonight, this is my, well, not my first experience in government, but the first one since I was a student body senator in high school, which was mostly just a resume padding activity. It wasn't really very substantive. And I think that my role as an attorney can be really valuable to this committee because it's not just what you say, but it's how you say it. And you want this government to be able to do what it needs to do without being tied up by badly written language or language that has an unintended consequence. And so, you know, the interpretation of the actual words that you're using to draft charter changes, I think is something that's really important to think about, and something that that I think I could do well and be able to contribute in that way. And I think that being a newer resident to Brattleboro and being a newer entrant into local government can bring a fresh set of perspectives. I think this board knows quite well that a fresh set of eyes can sometimes lead to some pretty drastic consequences.
Okay. Do I have to read my?
No, I know. I was just, I figured I'd leave an opportunity for follow-up. But you know, not to keep harping on the fact that I'm a lawyer, but it is by nature an adversarial profession. And so a big part of what I do is compromise with other people about often really, really emotional matters, you know, wrongful deaths, divorces, things where people have really strong feelings and really strong emotions, and being able to reach a compromise is a really critical part of my job. And I think what is going to be really important for this committee is to keep in mind that it's not about what one person wants or another person wants. It's about what's best for the town and how we can best serve the town, and to really, think about this higher duty than personal wants and needs.
Jess.
Follow-up question to that. So in your experience with developing compromises between folks, what are some of the tactics or tools that you use?
This has come up a lot, but really taking the time to think about things and not thinking off the cuff or jumping into something too quickly, but really taking the time to think it through. And one thing that I find really helpful is to write out your thoughts. A big part of my day is writing emails, and sometimes I'll take 30 or 40 minutes to write a 1-paragraph email, and then I'll leave it and I'll come back to it, because I really want to be mindful about what I'm saying and what I'm thinking, and I want to express it in a really effective way. And sometimes I can even change my own opinion just through that process. And so really, I think it's really great that this committee is going to have the time and space that it needs to do this properly.
Follow-up questions?
Can I do another?
Yeah.
You said a couple of times that you were fresh to local government, and then that your last governance experience was in high school. So I'm curious what your interest or like what's getting you going.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is just, I've lived in Vermont my whole life, even though not in Brattleboro, but Brattleboro is a really civically engaged community. It's something that I've never seen anywhere else I've lived in the state. And I think that this isn't just some sort of boilerplate. This is actually something that people are going to look at and people are going to utilize. And it's really hard to be in close proximity to Ian Goodnow without wanting to be civically engaged as well. It's and a lot of people that I know in this community are involved in some way or another, and it just sort of seemed inevitable at some point that I would too. And the purpose and goals of this committee really connected with me.
Great. Do you have any questions for the select board?
I do not.
Well, thank you very much, Hannah, for your application and for knowing all of the questions ahead of time. So prepared. Okay. Next up, Joy, can you tell me how you pronounce your last name?
Tournoux.
Tournoux. Excellent. Joy Tournoux, come on down.
How are you gonna pronounce
Could answer, it could go a lot of ways.
It's one of those it's actually, it's a question like sometimes when I have the opportunity just to clarify, I'll just do it even if I think I'll get it right. If I even have a question in my mind that I'll get it wrong. So.
It's how French do you want to be with it? And being in Vermont.
And in Vermont,
You gotta be careful.
Yeah, so okay, Joy, you've got the process down. Why don't you introduce yourself to us?
We'll do our best. Yes. So I am Joy Tournoux, and I, like others, am a new resident about 1.5 years now. And so you might have actually seen me on a different application because I did, once I was able to, join the Parks and Rec Board. So I filled out that application, but for the good of the whole and what I think is relevant here, I do have a master's in social work and nonprofit administration, not clinical. And I have worked and partnered with several nonprofits along the way, and certainly today's nonprofit is the Alzheimer's Association. I do work remote. So like I said, I am on the advisory board for the Parks and Rec Department. It has been so much fun already, which is great. And I just also started to volunteer with the Ski Hill. So I'm excited to get involved more with that. So then what I hope to accomplish with hopefully this appointment is just to the connection with the community, with the town. Agreed, I have not seen such a civically involved community.
Yeah.
And I came from Chicago, which has some of the most elected positions in the world. That city it's bonkers. So the ability, I actually feel the ability to be more involved here. It is, and to see the direct impact here. And before I left, I actually did run for a position in Chicago. I did not make it, but that's okay, with the local school council, so the local school board of one school. So I don't have an agenda. I have read over the charter. It's great to see a document and to see how it's changed. And I think this is a once in a generation opportunity, at least as currently written, to review the charter. And I think it's important to have, to keep passing down the generational line, that information and the process. So I hope to be a representative of a younger constituency that can help then the next constituency to make sure that we don't lose the process along the way. So I hope to be a part of that. So not just superficial, but for the long haul. And in disagreements.
Just pause you for a second.
Sorry,
See if
yes.
any board member has a follow-up
Question.
question to that. I don't think so.
Oh, no.
Okay. You, all right, I'll let you continue.
In my work with nonprofits, I actually have had the ability to staff disagreements. So being a part of and creating the space for the disagreements that happen. One place that we were the only open meeting that folks could come to disagree, and we had to create the space for disagreement and create more room for that public discourse. And that had modeled both good and bad behaviors of how to do that. And so while I did not participate because I was staffing it, I do know within myself that I'm a naturally curious person. I am the one who will ask the annoying extra questions because, and I lean into that because of that new perspective of not knowing. Sometimes that gets to the nugget or the core issue of asking the obvious question to make sure that you didn't lose sight of what is actually going on, right? And so in leaning into that, my hope in the disagreements, where I have had disagreements both personally and in some of my other work, which I'll say in just a moment, is that those extra questions remind what the core issue is or help uncover what the core issue is. But then also by hopefully hearing from others, we gain a new perspective. What was missing? What is behind that emotion, or what's behind that a question that you're asking? As far as true disagreements that we've had in Chicago, I was both the secretary and then the treasurer of my condo board, which dealt with the financial issues, the property upkeep, and we were self-managed. We did not have access to a lawyer. We didn't have access to folks to keep us in track. So we were the blind leading the blind, and with emotional stakes of our own property and financial stakes of our own property. And so every meeting that we would get together and the homework that we would have to do, we would have to sit through all of those disagreements and say, where are we going to spend our budget, and how do we prioritize? And then the disagreements between units on what's going to get covered and how we're going to do that. And you have to live next to them. So you can't burn all of your bridges.
Board members, any follow-up questions? On that one?
No, thank you.
I'm going to say what Tim said earlier, because I do have follow-up questions, but some of them are so specific that I think it'd be fair for me to ask them.
Well, I think that if you have one specific to something that's been brought up, that's kind of that's allowed within the.
You know, I'll ask it and then you can see how bad a question it was. So
Knowing Daniel,
like-
pretty bad. Probably.
yes, exactly. Like you talked about being impressed by the level of civic engagement. And yet also I look at the turnout for elections and I'm not impressed. I'm actually disheartened. And I look at the number of people, you know, wanting to run for representative town meeting, and I'm not impressed.
The question's coming.
And so, you know, it's more of a reaction really. to something that you said.
So
But I'm interested, like, is there any way that the Charter Review Commission could improve that situation in your mind? And so it's like such a.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like not a fair question.
I went really well into that.
I did look for an eye for when I read it over fairly recently because of, you know, the extended process here of applications. With the eye of what is going on, because even with like the Parks and Rec, like when it came to my mind to do it, when I was encouraged to do it, it was after the first call of applications. So I was the second call. And even this, I was the second call too, because I didn't hear about it the first call. And so I do think it's not the charter's issue, I think, to get to advertise things and to be more in your face or, you know, encouraging folks. And I even say that as something that I mentioned to the Parks and Rec was I wanted, it's not entirely fair, but they said social media, what was going on with their social media. I said, how bad is it to tell me, is it going up and down each time we meet? How many posts are actually going on? What, because I didn't know about a lot of things. And how do you better say what's going on? And I don't have the answer. I keep watching what is going on. Where I choose my media from, where my spouse chooses his media from, and the fact that he caught some things that I didn't, and he's actually the one that alerts me to some of the things and I alert him to the other side. It just, I think there's a breakdown in communication because I know that all of my neighbors care. And I even said to them, I even encouraged them, I said, I think I'm gonna apply for the town charter, apply with me. Oh, no. Oh, this is my project over here. I'm not gonna do that one over there. I know if somebody has opinions, are you gonna join with me and see if you're going to have your opinions? But I know folks show up, you know, and I don't know if it's grabbing their hand and pulling them along, or if they just need to be asked directly. And all of that is okay too, you know, at certain times. But I have been watching the information, how I find information with that eye of what, there is absolutely a breakdown and I don't know what it is. And if I were to say, where will this be shown?
Everywhere. This is.
I personally don't know how to get better involved with the select board meetings. Just flat out, like,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to know. It's hard, like, is this all the seats that are here? And then like knowing that Zoom a little bit, so it's hard to get.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night will be a big one.
Tomorrow night is a big one.
Big ratings tomorrow night.
Rapid budget tomorrow night.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why it's important. Yes. So, I mean, so just to let you know,
Yeah.
there's another breakdown along the way.
There it is. Yeah, I appreciate that specific question, Daniel, and I appreciate that response. Is there other follow-up questions?
Oh, I have two comments.
All right.
Really quick. One is for being only here 1.5 years. I put 1.5, year and a half, you said. Thank you for plugging yourself in. I mean, I think that's to be admired and clearly you have energy and that's appreciated. And I just want to make a comment that aspect of representation is all about so much of what the charter will be looking at, representational town meeting and how we are unique to the entire state of Vermont in having a representative town meeting. So perhaps the way it's structured is not the issue, it's the way it's executed and promoted. Those are my two
Things-
comments.
Yeah, absolute things that the commission could consider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to get you extra excited.
Yeah.
Should you be chosen on that mission? And like, is it broke? If it's not broke, how can we make it better? That kind of, all that can be looked at.
Any questions for the select board? Besides how you log in tomorrow or join the meeting?
I don't think I saw clearly when you will have a decision made, because there's 2 interview days.
Yeah, so we have tonight and looks like you're the last applicant tonight. So we'll have maybe a little bit of longer application interviews next Tuesday or next Monday. And then
Wednesday.
14.
oh, it's next Wednesday. Oh, boy.
Maybe it's 20.
The 5th, yeah. So the Wednesday after the meeting, we'll have the second round of interviews for next week. And so we will make a decision on the 20th, which is the select board meeting, the last select board meeting or the second to last select board meeting in December.
It'll be a good meeting.
It's gonna be a real,
Just come to every select board meeting this month. We're all gonna be tongue dingers.
yeah,
It's
so
always first and third.
I was gonna say, like, you have more than one a month.
at the moment, we're in budget season, so right now we have one every week.
Yeah.
So
It's
And-
always normal season.
If
It's
it's
first and third
Tuesday-
Tuesday.
do I have that right, Patrick? 20th for the
Yeah.
charter review appointments?
I think that's what we discussed.
Yeah, and so usually we put the appointments of people at the end of the meeting. So
It would be stated out loud at the end of that meeting.
and if you come and watch it or you watch it on Zoom, you'll watch our really clunky, archaic way of doing appointments. And with this many people, it'll be really weird and clunky, but we'll do
We
it.
will turn a
So
list of 20 into 7 somehow.
yes, somehow.
I'm gonna
Yes.
give a bump to the alternatives. I think that was a great idea.
There's a couple issues with it I was thinking about as we've been going through. Yeah, that one of the problems is Maya comes from the DRB. I was an alternate on the DRB, and they basically, when a member can't come, they come and they get to be able to vote. So that would not be the way that it would work here. So you could have someone sitting as an alternate for like a year and then maybe get pulled. I don't know. So there's some things to think about how to do it, but I think it's worth.
If one went 3 years, then absolutely
You
can
should
this.
have, but the alternate would be just to open up the process again for new applicants.
And the committee could always come to us and ask for some sort of additional appointments, couldn't they not?
I have maybe that's also, yeah. But I think we're gonna totally consider it. Any other questions? Cool. All right. Joy, thank you so much for your application. Did anybody come in while this was all going on?
No.
No? All right. Well, in that case, board members, is there anyone on Zoom?
Nobody with a hand up.
Okay.
And nobody
And you
that's on
haven't
the
heard
list
from the
of.
people who were scheduled but did not arrive.
No, there's nobody in the audience who's on the list for tonight.
Okay. So do we want to take up what to do about people who were on the list for tonight who aren't here?
Oh,
I would
I
propose.
have this question, which I could just say out loud. There was one person who withdrew, and I thought it was fair to let the public know that.
Please?
Yes, Kurt Dimes was an applicant, and he has, I believe, withdrawn on his own.
As of today,
As of,
Or-
yeah, it's late breaking news.
late breaking news. First to
So-
hear here.
But that way the other applicants know that there's one less.
Well, wouldn't it be typical for the Jessica Stickler to like contact those people and
Yeah, so
schedule?
my thought would be, let's have, I just wanted to put it on the record in the meeting that, so the people who were scheduled to come tonight that aren't here, let's make sure that they know that we have one other time to do this next Wednesday. And hopefully they can come to that one.
We'll reach out in the morning and find out what happened.
Excellent.
Great.
Board, any other discussion on this before I entertain a motion? Seeing none, I entertain a motion. Liz?
I forgot how to say this.
Really? Wow. Liz has made a motion to adjourn. Board members, all those in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Carries 5-0. Thank you very much. Thank you, BCTV. And thank you, Patrick. Thanks to the applicants.
Thanks to Ian for this pen.